You're not supposed to see this. I shouldn't even be holding this camera right now. The moment I picked it up, a cold shiver ran down my spine, crawling along my neck, making every hair stand on end. It felt heavy in my hand, like it had been waiting for me, just me, to discover it. Buried under years of dust and forgotten among stacks of old FBI case files, it hummed with a silent warning. You can feel it too, can't you? That strange, creeping tension, like something is right behind you even though you can't see it. I found lost footage from a missing FBI agent. Footage that was never meant to see the light of day. Not mine, not yours, not anyone's. And yet, here it is. 3 nights ago, I entered a storage building I had visited dozens of times before. But that night, it felt alien. The air was thick and heavy, musty, the smell of old paper and mildew so strong it clung to my lungs. Every breath felt like inhaling decades of secrets. Filing cabinets loomed overhead, tall and imposing, scratched and dented like silent sentinels watching my every move. The fluorescent light above flickered weakly, casting long, trembling shadows that seemed to creep along the floor toward me. I remember thinking at that moment that even the light seemed afraid of what was inside. Every corner of the room felt heavier, darker. Dust floated in the air, illuminated by my flashlight, catching in the beam like tiny suspended stars. But something about them felt wrong, as if they were moving with purpose. You notice it too, don't you? That uneasy feeling, that sense that the room itself is aware of you, that the silence is watching and waiting.
I leaned back from the screen, gasping, my hands trembling. The USB felt heavier now, like it had grown weighty with the terror contained within. My mind raced, trying to comprehend what I had just witnessed. The sense of being watched intensified. The shadows in my room seemed to move slightly, brushing against the corners of my vision. I tried to close the files, tried to convince myself it was only footage, that it was old, that it was recorded by someone under stress. But the fear wouldn't leave. Every sound felt amplified. Every corner of my apartment seemed darker, more menacing. The sense of eyes on me persisted, watching, waiting. I could not stop thinking about the agent, about the corridors he had walked, the shadows he had encountered, the rules he had written down over and over in desperation. The entity or entities he described were real. Whatever was in those corridors, whatever moved unseen, was real. And there was more. There were files I had not yet opened, footage I had not yet watched, secrets that even the FBI refused to acknowledge. The agent's final entries hinted at things that defied logic, things that could not exist, yet did. I have kept the USB with me, and yet I cannot shake the feeling that it is alive in its own way, waiting, watching, judging. And I know I must continue, not because I want to, but because I need to understand what happened to him, what walked those halls, what whispered his name, what followed him into darkness. If you think this is the end, you are mistaken. The files contain more, and I will show them. The corridors he ran through, the shadows that stretched along the walls, the unseen presence that seemed to inhabit every room, these are just the beginning. There will be more. You will see. And when you do, you will understand why this footage was never meant to be public, why it was buried, hidden, forgotten. Because some truths are too terrifying for anyone to witness. And yet, here we are.
One entry stood out. I don't know how long I can hold this. Every time I blink, it's closer. The cameras don't help. The shadows, they are aware. They move faster than I can follow. I can feel their gaze. It's inside my mind now. The logs grew more erratic toward the end, pages scribbled almost illegibly, as if the writer were panicked and exhausted. Some notes were cut off mid-sentence. I hear them whispering my name. They are everywhere. I cannot. And then there was silence. I swallowed hard, realizing that the footage might have captured his last moments. My pulse quickened. The air felt heavier, almost suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. Shadows shifted again, longer now, stretching across the walls. Every creak, every hum, every slight movement felt amplified. Then the agent's final footage played. He was running, his camera shaking violently as he sprinted down the corridor. The lights flickered and died intermittently. His breathing was ragged, rapid, almost panicked. Something moved behind him. Something fast, almost imperceptible, yet felt utterly alive. Objects flew across the room as he passed. Doors slammed violently on their own. He stumbled, barely catching himself, whispering desperately, "No! Stay away! You don't understand!" The camera jerked violently as he turned a corner, and then I saw it. A pale, translucent hand reaching from the shadows. Longer than any human hand should be, fingers bending in impossible angles. It hovered, almost testing him, waiting. The agent screamed, a raw, guttural sound, and the camera fell to the ground, rolling on the floor, capturing only the hand and shadow stretching along the walls. Static filled the footage, then silence.
The folder labeled Field Operations, Classified, 2022 lay open in front of me. Its contents were meticulously organized, yet chaotic in a way that hinted at desperation. Each page was stamped confidential, each line of handwriting shaky, almost frantic. There were numbers, codes, symbols I could barely understand. But the notes themselves were terrifying in their clarity. They described doors that opened and closed on their own, shadows moving independently, whispers in empty hallways, footsteps echoing where no one stood. Every page carried the same sense of dread, as though the pen that wrote it trembled in fear. Rule number 1: never enter the East Wing after midnight. The agent had written it repeatedly, sometimes crossing it out, sometimes underlining it, as though writing it over and over could protect him from what lurked there. Rule number 2: if the cameras flicker, do not approach. I had noticed this myself in the storage room. The lights above flickered unevenly, and for a brief second, I felt the same panic the agent must have felt, as if something was hovering just out of sight. Rule number 3: do not speak to anyone claiming to be internal personnel without verification. The agent had scrawled this in all caps. Whoever or whatever was watching could imitate voices, could imitate people. And they were clever, patient, silent. The pages went on, Rule 4, Rule 5, each one more disturbing than the last. Some were almost unreadable, smudged by tears or sweat. One page simply read, "If you are reading this, the entity knows you are here. Do not trust the cameras, do not trust the doors, don't look behind you." I could feel my heart racing as I read this. The sense of being watched intensified. Shadows in my room seemed darker, almost leaning closer. I kept glancing over my shoulder, though no one was there. Among the files were logs of dates and times, documenting the agent's movements and encounters. Some were routine, others horrific. He described turning a corner to find a figure that vanished when he blinked, whispering from the walls themselves. Chairs pushed across floors with no one in the room. He noted the sound of his own breathing, the echo of footsteps, the feeling that he was being followed by something invisible, yet tangible. The agent's breathing was erratic, almost ragged, and I could see his hands trembling as he gripped the camera. He whispered, "They're watching. They always watch." His eyes darted constantly, scanning the room, scanning corners, scanning every shadow. You can almost feel the tension in the footage, the way his body stiffened, the way every sound seemed amplified, as if the building itself was holding its breath. He turned a corner and froze. The camera shook violently. There was movement, a shadow stretching across the floor, darker than the night itself. It moved unnaturally, sliding along the wall, bending and twisting as if it had its own life. He whispered again, "No, no, not now." His voice trembled, but the words were barely audible over the creak of the doors and the soft hum of the lights. Every step he took seemed dangerous. Every corner held the potential for something to emerge, something unseen. Objects moved without anyone touching them. A rolling chair scraped across the floor, then stopped abruptly. A filing cabinet creaked as if pushed by a force that did not exist. And then silence. Thick, suffocating silence, broken only by his breathing, shallow and fast. The next moment, the agent reached a room filled with cabinets and desks. Papers littered the floor. A single drawer opened slowly, pushed by nothing, then slammed shut. He leaned closer to the camera, whispering in panic, They're everywhere." I could feel it too, the pressure in the air, the heaviness in my chest, the sense that something was watching me even here, miles away from that building. He pulled a notebook from the floor, flipping through pages filled with frantic handwriting. Each note detailed things that cannot exist, shadows moving independently, objects defying gravity, whispers and empty rooms. Rules written over and over: do not enter after midnight, do not trust the cameras, do not look behind you. Each rule repeated with urgency, as if repetition itself could prevent disaster. I could feel my pulse rising. Every word he wrote seemed to seep through the screen into my chest, a cold and constant reminder that the unseen was always present. And yet, I couldn't look away.
I leaned closer to the screen. The agent's hands shook visibly as he pushed open another door. Papers flew. A filing cabinet toppled slowly. There it was again. The movement. Subtle at first, but unmistakable. Shadows that shouldn't exist. Stretching across the hall is the breathing. The storage building was larger than it seemed from the outside. Rows of filing cabinets stretched as far as my flashlight could reach, each one sagging under the weight of decades of papers, folders, and documents long forgotten. The air was stagnant, thick with dust and the faint metallic smell of old ink. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven, each exhale echoing slightly as if the walls themselves were listening. My flashlight's beam trembled as I moved, the shadows dancing and stretching in impossible angles. Every corner looked darker than the last. Every shelf seemed to loom over me, waiting. I paused near one cabinet. Its drawers were jammed with years of files. I ran my fingers across the surface, feeling the roughness of the paint, the dents and scratches made by someone who had come here in a hurry long ago. The envelope in my hand felt heavier now, almost like it was warning me, urging me to turn away. But I couldn't. Curiosity had taken hold, and there was no turning back. As I moved deeper into the room, I noticed the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above, irregular and uneven, flickering as if in warning. The sound of the building settling echoed around me. Metal groaned faintly in the distance, and I swore I heard a soft, distant whisper. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe it wasn't. My pulse quickened. Every instinct in me screamed to leave, yet my feet moved forward, toward the desk where the envelope had waited. When I placed the USB into my laptop, the screen blinked to life, showing shaky, handheld footage. The agent was moving through a similar corridor, his footsteps echoing on the tile floor. You notice it too, the way each echo stretches unnaturally, bouncing off walls as though the space itself is alive. Shadows twist in corners that should be empty. Papers slide across desks on their own, pushed by a force I cannot see. I stepped forward cautiously, my flashlight trembling slightly. The beam caught on a small, unexpected object on a far corner desk, a manila envelope, brittle with age, carefully placed and yet seemingly abandoned. There was no label, no name, no number, only a warning, faintly scrawled, "Do not open." My heart hammered. Every instinct screamed to leave, to back away slowly and pretend I had never seen it. But something drew me closer. I could feel it pulling me in, as if it were alive. I picked it up. The paper crinkled beneath my fingers. Inside, a small USB drive and a note, hastily scribbled in a shaky hand. "If you are reading this, stop. Turn away. Some things are not meant for your eyes." Of course, I didn't stop. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The screen flickered twice, and then the footage began. The first few seconds were shaky, handheld. A dark hallway stretched before the camera, lined with doors that seemed to watch. The agent's breathing was fast, uneven, nervous. You notice it too, don't you? That echo in an empty hallway, the way each step seems louder than it should be. Doors creaked open on their own. Papers slid from desks. A rolling chair moved across the floor with no one touching it. Shadows stretched and swayed as if the room itself had grown alive. And then I saw him, the agent, his eyes wide with fear, darting from corner to corner. He whispered almost to himself, "They're watching. They always watch." I could feel it too, even here, a cold weight pressing on my chest. Shadows in my own apartment seemed darker, leaning closer as I watched. Every creak, every whisper, every movement made me question what was real. The agent moved cautiously down the hall, holding the camera tightly. Every sound amplified, alive, threatening. He stopped, and the camera jerked toward a corner. Something moved there. Not human, not anything I could identify. And then it vanished.